Cool. Hi, everyone. Sorry to those I can't see over there because I'm too short. Thank you all for coming today. I'm thrilled to welcome you to the launch of Robert Turnbull's new book, Codex Sinaiticus Arabicus and its Family, a Bayesian Approach, which has just been published by Brill. My name's Emily, and I'm a PhD candidate in archaeology here at the University of Melbourne, looking at the use of digital methods, including Bayesian phylogenetics, which we'll hear more about today, in the study of Bronze Age Aegean administrative documents. I'm very fortunate to have Rob as one of my supervisors. So we have an exciting program ahead of us today with 4 guest speakers. We have Reverend Michael Bird from Ridley College, Professor Alexander Traeger from Dalhousie University, Associate Professor Stephen Carlson from ACU, and PhD candidate Joey McCollum, also from ACU. Our speakers will be discussing the significance of Rob's new book from a number of perspectives, including the study of Arabic manuscripts, New Testament studies, textual criticism, and the application of Bayesian phylogenetics to manuscript research. But we should, of course, begin with an introduction to Rob himself, as well as to the book. So Rob initially studied a Bachelor of Science at Monash University, where he majored in mathematics and astrophysics. He then worked in earth science as a research software engineer, writing software to model the Earth's crust and mantle. Following this, he undertook a Master's of Divinity at Ridley College before moving to Jordan, where he studied Arabic and worked for the Peace Dove Club for the Deaf. Whilst in Jordan, he twice visited St. Catherine's Monastery to inspect Arabic manuscripts of the Gospels. It was these manuscripts that were the subject of his PhD, which he started in 2017, and which he examined through a combination of phylogenetics, statistical modelling, and textual criticism. And the book we'll be hearing about today is the product of this PhD research. Rob started work at the Melbourne Data Analytics Platform, or MDAP, in 2020, where he currently works as a senior research data specialist, collaborating with academics on data-intensive research projects, as well as supervising a number of us PhD students. And I can safely say that we all are grateful to have both his expertise and enthusiasm supporting us in our individual projects. Returning to the book, Codex Sinaiticus Arabicus and its Family, a Bayesian Approach, examines a particular Arabic translation of the biblical New Testament Gospels, which was unearthed in the Sinai New Finds of 1975. In particular, the book aims to use Bayesian phylogenetics and other computational techniques to help illuminate the transmission history of this particular version of the Gospels and its place in the broader New Testament textual tradition. As Rob highlights, Arabic versions of the New Testament, including this Codex Sinaiticus Arabicus, have been overlooked and under-researched in the field of New Testament studies. And when they have been considered, the research has often been qualitative in focus, considering the content and meaning of these texts down to a detailed word-by-word level, which of course is incredibly important, but not the whole story. This study intends to further spotlight the importance of Arabic versions of the Gospel and add a complementary view, with a quantitative, data-driven analysis using Bayesian phylogenetics to study the transmission history of these Arabic versions, including the Codex Sinaiticus Arabicus. So over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be hearing from our 4 speakers about these manuscripts, the use of Bayesian phylogenetics in manuscript research, and some of the open source software outputs that are being produced by this project. We'll then invite Rob up to respond to the insights of our speakers, and we'll also be taking audience questions at this time. Then around 3:40-ish, we invite you to join us for afternoon tea and continued discussion. So first up, I'd like to introduce Reverend Michael Bird, who was Rob's primary PhD supervisor at Ridley College. Michael grew up in Brisbane before joining the Army and serving as a paratrooper, intelligence operator, and then chaplain's assistant. He completed his PhD in 2005 on the historical Jesus and the origins of the Gentile mission. Michael then taught New Testament at the Highland Theological School in Scotland until 2009, before joining the Brisbane School of Theology as lecturer in theology. He joined the faculty at Ridley College as lecturer in 2013 and is now the deputy principal. He's the author of over 30 books, including volumes on Christian origins, Pauline theology, and biblical commentaries. He's also the author of fantasy novel Iskandar and the Immortal King of Iona, which sounds very cool. So take it away, Michael.
Okay. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be with you, and it's a pleasure to celebrate Rob Turnbull's book on Codex Sinaiticus Arabicus. When I first met Rob, he'd spent some time in the Middle East, and he was, a classic computer nerd, I would fair to say. He was deep into the data and all the software, And he told me about his journeys to St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai, which kind of alarmed me because my previous background was in military intelligence, and I was in military intelligence during the height of what was called the Global War on Terror. And I knew about terrorist cells that were operating in the Sinai Peninsula. So I was just very grateful that Rob was never captured or nothing bad ever happened to him. But when he came along with this some ideas for a thesis of wanting to do on Arabic manuscripts, I was naturally excited. In the field of biblical studies, I've tended to pride myself on being a bit of a generalist, trying to know a little bit about everything. So I thought I had a fairly above average knowledge of, say, the science of textual criticism. For those who don't know, textual criticism is how we try to reconstruct what the original New Testament most likely was, or as close as we can to approximate it, because there are thousands of manuscripts and there's variations between them at various levels. And then there's all these different languages. While the New Testament was written mostly in Greek, it was then quickly translated into things like Latin, Ethiopic, Georgic, and of course, Arabic. Rob came across a number of manuscripts in Arabic called Family B or Codex Arabicus, and he wanted to have a concerted look about how getting into this will help us better understand how the Arabic manuscripts relate to the general tradition of manuscripts, and what are the insights we can take away from the study of Arabic manuscripts from the basic tasks of text criticism. Okay, I've got this right so far, don't I, Rob? Okay. Now that where it's pretty easy, okay, trying to understand that part. The next part is where he then develops his own software and uses some very particular statistical diagnostics for being able to get into it. And it led to a lot of conversations where I had to do a quote from The Office and say, Rob, can you explain it to me like I'm 5? So I tend to work in the world of biblical studies, a little bit of archaeology and text, but anything that's got Bayesian in it is a little bit beyond my pay grade. I'm not really a numbers guy. In high school, I did a subject called Maths and Society, where you had to make a cube, and if you colored it in, you got extra marks. That was that was basically my level of maths. That's why God gave me my dear wife who does the financing at home and a calculator. But Rob's subject was fascinating because of how diverse it was. He was working in textual criticism. He was working in software. He developed his own software program, the Codex program, which I think has got gazillions of applications. I'd love to hear what it's doing now and how it's being used in other places around the world. And he's into the statistical stuff. Now, what is really significant about Rob's work is some people know about the textual criticism. They know about the ancient manuscripts. They know about some of the possible relationships between them. Some people know about computer software, about how you can enter data and apply it for things like reconstructing the Canterbury Tales, or you can apply it to the works of Shakespeare. And then there's some people who actually know things about statistics. What is unique and what was really compelling about Rob's thesis is he can actually do all three. Because in a lot of things in our field, people know a little bit, like I said, some of those things, but to have competencies across all things is very unique. And it's that lack of competencies across all three areas, which I think means we're still yet to fully have the best contributions we can in the area of textual criticism. So I say with no sense of exaggeration that Rob's work on this is positively polymathic. He's bringing together a number of very technical and important disciplines and integrating them away in very few people on the face of this planet, I think, would be able to. So I'm really proud of what Rob's been able to do. It was good. Now, I've got a basic familiarity with Arabic. I can a little bit of Egyptian Arabic. I can say like Sabah il Hia, how you're doing, and importantly, Ana la Ameriki, which is a way of saying I am not American. So I know the important phrases, and like Anamar Bafham, I don't understand. So I had a working knowledge of Arabic, but we had to bring in another supervisor, Alexander Trigo, who is one of the leading scholars of Arabic manuscripts in the world. And he worked very closely with Rob on some of the method and the technical things on the Arabic. And I think the result is a great thesis. Now, it's not going to be the type of book you're going to pick up at Barnes and Noble or Koorong, or, you may see advertised around the place on Amazon, but it is making a very big contributions to the study of textual criticism itself, the underrated value of Arabic manuscripts for how we attempt to reconstruct New Testament. But I think most of all, Rob has moved ahead the conversation by a generation when it comes to the use of computational statistics and how we do textual criticism. And I think that's going to be the long-term benefit, highlighting the value of the Arabic tradition and bringing forward a new methodology, which I hope one day will completely revolutionize how we do textual criticism. That's something I hope Rob goes on to do with some partners and colleagues in the future. And yeah, it's my pleasure to be here and to celebrate Rob's years of hard work, the publication of this book, and the great things that lie ahead for Rob, his career, and his students. So Rob, thank you. It was a pleasure to supervise you and to work with you, and I wish you every blessing and every success in the future. Thank you.